And I wonder if it's fun for them. When I play Smash Bros with people that are just not good, like, I don't get excited. I try to find ways to make it more even. Like, oh, maybe we do team battles.
See, the problem is you're a stable person. Like,
it's true.
The problem is you have
moral,
you have empathy.
Yeah, and you have a healthy lifestyle, and you have friends and a family. You have your wife. Things that Welcome to another episode of the Super Agile Bros. You already know what it is. It's your boy Braston representing the streets up in this building. Super Agile Nation, everybody out there, we're so happy to have you. We got a good discussion going on today and we're excited to talk about. But as per usual, I got to introduce the brothers themselves. First, we got our boy, Mr. Kyle. What's happening with you, brother?
What's going on, Brad? I'm here. And yes, I see you representing the streets. You're wearing a suit jacket. It looks like it's made out of one of those road maps you see in child's playrooms.
Yes.
With the streets going all over. It looks very good on you. I couldn't rock it myself. So respect.
Got my Yeezys on. I got them before, before.
No longer manufactured.
No matter, pre. So,
if anything, they're more expensive now.
You probably
the relics now.
Get them out of a dumpster somewhere behind an Adidas factory or something. And you heard his voice already. The boy Steve. What's happening, brother Steve? What's happening?
Well, you heard my voice. You know what's happening. My voice is happening. It's going to get deeper and deeper the rest of the episode.
Ooh,
it's already pretty deep. You're probably going to wish you started higher.
That's so true.
Yeah, I do wish I'd started.
Are you auditioning for Batman? Just working your way down. That's a Steve. I wish Batman. Anyway,
nobody should ever audition for Batman again. Kevin must live forever in our memories.
I mean, would Batman be more intimidating if his voice was super high pitched and he was breaking people's legs and stuff?
Get on the ground.
No, definitely not.
I am the knight. No, I'm sorry.
Where is she?
What are you doing, criminal? Like nobody would think it was Bruce Wayne. They'd be like, that's not Bruce Wayne.
They should just get Mark Hamill to play the Batman from now on.
He should play every character.
Every character. Mark Hamill, yes.
Use the same voice.
I think there was actually an episode of one of these different animated Batman cartoons where Mark Hamill played 3 characters in the same episode.
I wouldn't doubt it. That man's a beast.
Yeah, he's
a menace is what he is.
Who would have thought that Mark Hamill would be such a solid voice actor? Prolific, like Luke Skywalker. Like, if any person I would just assume had no other talents other than being Luke Skywalker is Luke Skywalker, aka Mark Hamill. But man, he makes me proud. He
did the thing,
So yeah. Speaking of being proud, I just want to throw this out there for y'all who don't know. I got to give a shout out to my boy Marcus, my boy Michael, my brother Brandon, and of course my beautiful wife Shy. This weekend they supported me as I had my first ever Muay Thai kickboxing kickboxing fight. I didn't win, but I put in that work. It was a great experience. I fought somebody who was a lot more experienced than me, but
he told him.
He told me after the fight that I hit him so hard that his arm started twitching out.
Oh, that's a good sign.
And I was like, my bad. I wasn't even trying to hit you hard. Like,
don't apologize to that man for that.
You concussed him. It's what he deserves.
He's just like, oh. His body was fighting for his life. He's just that good. So it was cool. It was a good event. I'll definitely share the videos with y'all. I think I might have shared one with y'all. I'm not even sure. But yeah, so I'm back in.
I have a story to tell.
It's truly a story to tell. I ain't got no blood. Clean face. Your boy clean. Came out unscathed. No damage. So, yeah, off of the heels of fighting, it made me think about other type of fighting be happening in this world, particularly video game fighting, and particularly a particular mechanic called battle royales. So today, in our discussion, we'll be talking about battle royales and just how they.
Is that a mechanic? Is that a mechanic or a genre?
Yeah, that was going to be my first question to pose back.
Okay, let's start off with that. What do y'all think about? First of all, okay, How about this?
How about this?
We're going to be talking about battle royales and how they might have changed the gaming landscape. What do we think about them? Are they stay popular? Are we interested in seeing other battle royales in other games? First, one of you, could you define what a battle royale is? And then we'll discuss if we think it's a mechanic or a genre per that definition. Any of y'all would be interested in taking this on?
Our Atlas himself, Steve, would you like to?
Sure.
Steve's like the Pokédex.
Yeah. Battle Royale, a game where...
I'm just going to close this back up.
Yeah. No, don't close me. So, very high level, I would say Battle Royale is a game mode, not necessarily a genre, but a mode where you have a lot of players. I would say more than the normal like 12 or 16 or whatever you would see on a MOBA or something else like that. And
MOBA is a multiplayer online battle arena for those who don't know.
Right. So something like Overwatch or like League of Legends, where you're on one of two teams, and that may be the big teams. I don't know how many people are on like an Overwatch team. I think League of Legends isn't necessarily a big team. It's like 4-person teams.
Yeah, they're both around 5.
Oh, okay,
give or take.
5. Sure, but anyway, you have a lot of people, like maybe 60 or 100 people, and they might be solo. They might be playing as part of a team of 2, 3, or 4. And the goal is to survive longer than the other teams. And then whoever is left to the end wins. So it's either a free-for-all or kind of a, multi-team free-for-all. And it can be shooting. I think of the only non-shooting battle royale game I can think of would be Fall Guys. It's like a platforming battle royale.
Mm-hmm.
But I think other than that, it still counts.
Yeah. I mean, I like my definition is it's basically the Hunger Games.
Yes. Hunger Games. That's a great example.
Well, you
of a
choose
battle
your
royale.
conditions.
Yeah.
Everybody has seen and or read the Hunger Games. So that is a relevant comparison.
A pop culture reference.
Isn't the Hunger Games a spinoff of something else? There was another movie about like these kids in a school that was a similar thing to Hunger Games. I can't remember the name of it now.
Kids in a school. There's lots of movies with kids in a school.
They were kids in a school, but then they also had like a Hunger Games premise. What was it called?
Was
it just called Was it just called Battle Royale? Was that just called the movie?
Oh, there was like something about kids on an island.
Maybe that was it. But they were school kids.
There was like bombs involved.
You're not talking about the old school classic. Gosh, now you're making me forget. Piggy.
See, it's in there.
It was like schoolboys. They crashed on an island and they had to survive. But that wasn't really a battle royale. It was just
No. We're not Lord of the Flies. This was like a Death Games style. I don't know if it was children. I feel like I remember something about there being bombs, like in your neck or on a necklace or something. Ooh. You had to participate.
Huh.
I don't remember. Yeah.
I don't think Hunger Games is based on anything else. It's just an original story.
Concept. Yeah, I mean, I assume that even the Hunger Games, everything is built off of everything, right? Like, it's like just the iteration of something that existed before.
Right,
like,
but he was asking if it's a spin-off, and I'm like, it's not like it's not a spin-off.
No. I didn't mean spin-off. I was more of they were inspired by another story.
I can't tell you what it was inspired by.
I bet you there's something made in 1732 about a similar situation that we're just like not really well aware of. But
a woman with bow and arrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I would note about battle royales is that it is like the type of thing that people wish they could do in a video game, but maybe just wasn't technically possible. Yeah. I can't remember what game it was, but it was like 128 people online in a team deathmatch, right? And essentially, the team deathmatch would have a similar mechanic, similar like, last team alive survives. but we just didn't have the network capacity or the ability to do that. And technology now allows us to do that. But one thing I would note that differentiates a battle royale from a multi-team deathmatch is also the needing to get your supplies on the battlefield and having to what do you call it? Loot, right? So that's probably the biggest differentiator.
So resource management.
Yeah. So
in shooter battle royales, yeah, but I guess going back to like the Fall Guys example, there's no loot in that game.
I was right. Battle Royale movie. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to this. Continue your conversation.
Yeah, I dare say
it was called Battle Royale. Hey, I was kind of right too.
That's probably where it came from, right? You'd assume.
42 ninth graders are sent to a deserted island. They are given a map, food, and various weapons. An explosive collar is fitted around their neck. If they break a rule, they die. Mission: kill each other. Be last one standing. This was in 2000.
I thought it was much older than that.
That's definitely before Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. Yeah, that's clearly where the name came from. But I think that's the big differentiator. I personally don't think that Fall Guys is a battle royale. I think it's just an elimination game. Like it has a battle royale aspect to it, but it's not a battle royale. Because I think the key differentiator is landing, having to get supplies, and like fighting people who are in a similar survival state as you, like I think like I see Fall Guys as like Mario Party elimination style.
Yeah, I think that is one thing about battle royales, that they do have degrees, but usually one of the biggest selling points is the massively multiplayer part of the experience. Because you can have like, I guess 10 people drop into a map and have to loot and stuff, but I don't know if you would still call that, on the same scale at least, a battle royale. Whereas because Fall Guys has like 100 people, I think that's why it blurs that line of being a battle royale.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about the concept of what is a battle royale, it's a lot of people fighting to be on top. And Fall Guys definitely fits that description. I think you're right that there's a lot of other games that are kind of more similar where, there are other features that you just described about having to manage resources and being in kind of a randomized part of the map and having to move around and other factors, right? Like, I think a lot of games have those, and you could probably get away with specifying the genre, but I was attempting to start at a very high level.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, and this is maybe where we disagree on the definition of battle royale, but I do personally think that it has to do with the aspect of getting your equipment in the field. Because even before Fortnite, before PUBG, there were multiplayer 64 battle type arenas with multiple teams. And, some might be deathmatch, some might be like custom modes, like permadeath kind of situations. Not so popular games. So I feel like PUBG having that permadeath. I think that's something we need to note as well.
What do you mean permadeath?
Perma elimination, meaning once
single elimination,
you're out. Single elimination.
I mean, aren't lots of games like that?
Not like, think about Halo. Like, even if you had 80 plus people in a Halo deathmatch, they respawn. It's just.
Well, okay. So something I said while I was describing that we should probably focus on a little is that a battle royale is usually not a game; it is a game mode, because you could absolutely make a Halo match with battle royale rules. Maybe not with all the people, right? But like, you can make it single life elimination. Start with no weapons, big map. Like, you could do all that with custom matches and stuff. Would you not agree that would be a battle royale, pretty much?
But I would also say that you can make Halo a turn-based anything, or you can make Halo into a kart racer. Like, it's,
you can't. Yeah, yeah. It's a game mode. Yeah.
No, I'd say it's a genre.
I mean, that's why. It's a genre versus a mechanic. So we're back to the mechanic versus genre
No,
I guess, discussion
it's game mode versus genre, right? So like Fortnite, when it came out, it wasn't what it is, right? It was an adventure game. Yeah, it was a survival game, and it had an alternate game mode that has far surpassed the original game mode.
They had no idea.
Yeah, but like when people talk about Fortnite, they're definitely talking about the Battle Royale mode, but there are other modes to play in that game. You guys introduced me to other modes in that game.
Creative mode.
But the game that really put Battle Royales on the map was PUBG. And PUBG was only had PUBG,
one mode. Yeah, right? Absolutely.
So I think so. This is a good discussion. Let's debate it. All right. So, from this is my personal opinion, and I want to come back to you, Steve, because you already kind of laid it out, but I want to hear it more in depth. My personal opinion is that just like in any game could be anything. You could have Halo be first person shooter with a storyline. It could be turn based. It could have a battle royale version of it. But I think that just because a game has multiple modes doesn't mean that it doesn't have multiple genres within a game, right?
Okay, sure.
Like Halo single player is a single player first person shooter. People would say its genre is a first person shooter, but then like that's not necessarily the mode per se. But you know, I think that. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Let me think about this for a second. But I just think that a battle royale, yes, can be a mode in a game, but I think that fundamentally, maybe I'm wrong. I'm thinking about. I'm going to pass this off. I'm going to think for a second. Go ahead.
So I like what you said. I'm thinking about it more, and I guess there's not really any reason to argue that something is a genre versus a mode. Because as you say, some games have different modes that would be completely different genres. Typically, when we think about a game and we're saying, oh, what genre is Halo? We would just pick whatever mode people are thinking of, right? And we would just all kind of agree, like, oh, this is like the main mode.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I guess we just have to be careful. We don't have to for this conversation, but something to think about. I will split hairs and say that you can't make any game like any game. Like you said, Halo can be a kart racer, which it can, but it can't be a turn-based game because it doesn't have the mechanics to support that.
But they have turn-based.
I mean, you could just be on comms and be like, okay, your turn. Like you could apply whatever rules you want, but like in terms of in-game mechanics, like I think you can make it a kart racer. You can all get in Warhogs and have a track and have, I think, maybe checkpoints or something. I'm not sure. But like, I don't know of any way in Forge or in custom rules to like create turns. And even that aside, you know, Halo has the mechanics to support lots of different modes. What's it called? Fortnite has lots of different modes built in and has the mechanics in creative mode. You guys built an infinite shooter, basically a zone defense thing. Like that's cool. But like Fall Guys doesn't have, or PUBG doesn't have the mechanics to support multiple modes. PUBG is only that one mode.
Kyle, you made a point, and you brought in the idea of mechanic. Why did you say mechanic and not mode or genre?
So I'm not arguing that mechanic is correct. I'm on team genre when it comes to battle royale, because I think it's a mode that could be within games. Because I think what makes a mode is the sum of its parts, and so I think back to the Halo example. You know, if we say Halo and then you have to describe it in 3 words, right? You'd say shooter probably first, and so I think the same could be applied to a genre or mode like battle royale. Like the first thing you might say is massively multiplayer. Like, and you know, so thinking of it that way, I think that you can always dive down and add more mechanics to a mode, but the extraneous mechanics, you know, whether or not you drive, whether or not you shoot, whether or not you can swim, I don't think those are make or break when it comes to what makes something a battle royale.
Interesting.
I mean, but when you define them as extraneous, then yeah. But I guess the question is what makes something extraneous or not extraneous?
This makes me think about how essentially if you think about something like genres don't even necessarily always make sense. Like you could say Call of Duty is a first person shooter, Halo's a first person shooter, but you also have to realize that a game can be a first person shooter but be recognized as an RPG, right?
Yeah.
So you can have multiple genres within a particular gaming experience, right? And so I feel like maybe I don't even know if genre is even that defined. So I feel like Battle Royale makes sense to me that it's a genre because it's somewhat like, hey, this is just what you do in this game. Like if somebody says Battle Royale, they can assume the basic rules, right? Maybe the mechanics are different. Maybe it's a first person shooter. Maybe it's a, hand to hand combat. Maybe it's you're a worm and you eat other worms. You know what I'm saying? But when you hear Battle Royale, you know what the gameplay is going to be like. But if I say to you, oh, it's a multiplayer game, that doesn't mean anything. Like it's a multiplayer mode. Okay. You got to tell me.
You don't know anything else about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the same goes for, like I think subgenres is where we kind of get into now, because in order, I guess, for a game to make sense holistically, you have to have like a main thing that you're doing, and so that's kind of where it would fit in. Like if you're driving the whole time, then somebody might call it a racing game, and so I think fundamentally a lot of people would just call, and I know this is getting into the territory of why a lot of parents have problems with Fortnite is because at the very highest level, it is a shooter, and then it's a shooter battle royale multiplayer game, and so all those subgenres underneath the genre of shooter. And so I think it's up to who is playing it to choose which one is the highest for them, because if you take away the shooting, it doesn't make it any less multiplayer,
or even less battle royale. Like it's And I think Steve made a good point, like, or maybe it was Kyle, just this idea of like when you think of a game, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Now, if you say Fortnite, you think Battle Royale. If you say PUBG, Battle Royale. You could say Call of Duty, but I doubt most people would say Battle Royale, even though they have a huge Battle Royale mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like we assign genres based on what it most naturally, or maybe from a popular standpoint, it resonates to,
if you think about it, it really screws with your head, because I was going to say, a genre is just a collection of mechanics, right? Because that's what we've been talking about, all the different mechanics. But there are also genres that are described not by mechanics, but by like the writing or the art, or the amount of story. Like
fantasy is a genre.
Yeah, like RPGs. It's like, role playing, like, that doesn't mean anything at all. But RPGs usually tend to be, vast sweeping games where you control the story. Like those aren't necessarily mechanics. Like that could be any game, but it's like the feel of the game as you play it. Yeah, that's what RPG means.
Because technically, God of War is an RPG in a way.
Every game with a character is an RPG.
There was a point in time where games you couldn't affect the player's stats, right? Like you couldn't assign abilities or think of Legend of Zelda. Like, sure, it's kind of an RPG, but it's more just like you're playing the character and he gets new weapons or he gets more hearts. You're not really nuancing their specs, right?
Yeah, you're not speccing the character.
Exactly. But nowadays, an RPG is almost the base system. Like what's the game we played all the time? Borderlands. Borderlands is an RPG shooter, right?
It's also a multiplayer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they should have a
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. Oh, okay. Check this out. Okay, so first, let's
I have a comment about RPGs.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think one of the things that really pushes something into the RPG manifold is the idea of kind of what you guys were saying, but the idea of choice. Like if the player can choose to make things happen,
and control,
yeah, then that's where the role, like, even if it's as simple as I want to choose this sword over this sword, because back to the Legend of Zelda example, you had, in the earlier titles, you got one, I believe. One sword, one shield, one type of bomb, one arrow. So, yeah, that it wasn't things would happen to you. You would acquire things. That's not playing a role.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I always thought speccing a character is important. I always thought of an RPG, and granted, I don't play a lot of these games. I always thought it was less important. It was important to be able to control the character, but also to be able to control the character's choices, and not just I pick up this sword or that sword, but like, oh, I will engage with this quest line, or I will be in this faction, or I will, attack this person. Like,
but
to
that
actually
would
make the story happen.
But Japanese JRPGs, you don't really do that. It's a linear storyline. The only thing you can do is...
That's why you said JRPG instead of RPG.
No, I mean RPGs. I mean, honestly, RPGs were just like... RPGs were what we know as the role-playing games that you played on, with your friends in a room somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And then Japanese RPGs was just a bit implementing those characteristics within a digital format in a game, standpoint with the storyline, right? And the reason I think a lot of people called it, like, we're like, wow, these are RPGs, because it had that same element of fantasy where you are kind of deciding how things happen because of how you spec out your player, but the story is linear, right? Like, you're not changing the choices.
I mean, I've thought about this a lot. I would argue that even if they initially felt similar, at this point, JRPG is not just Japanese RPGs. It's essentially a completely separate genre that also involves choice, but instead of choosing the story, like you just said, the story is pretty linear. Usually, in that case, you're choosing... It's really, really focused on how you spec your character and party, and it's all about, like, party synergy and, grinding out stats and, like, stuff like that. Most JRPGs I know of have some sort of party mechanics, even if they're not turn-based anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
so to me that's like, completely different from the American, the Western RPG.
Yeah, I remember there being, I can't remember who it was, but there's a big time where, like, Japanese games in general were kind of falling off compared to Western games. And there was, I don't think it was Kojima, but it was a very popular game designer who was just talking about the fall of Japanese games and we need to do better. And it was at GDC, the Game Developers Conference. But it was like, there's this big tension between the Western RPG, which would be the, I guess you could say the Skyrims, the
Witchers.
The Witchers, yeah, that's the exact game I was thinking of. Like, Witcher's probably the one that people think of, the Dragon Ages and stuff like that.
Assassin's Creed.
Versus the JRPGs, which you just described. And anyway, it's interesting to see how, essentially, I think eventually what we do is like, JRPGs were like all RPGs, and then eventually we started to, like, narrow it down more. Like, no, this is it. And then the Western, this is it. So, anywho, we could talk about this for a long time. So, let's talk a little bit more about Battle Royale games. So,
if we must.
If we must. What do y'all feel about Battle Royale games in regards to the gaming landscape? Like, let me ask you all, what was your first Battle Royale game, and did you think that they would be as prolific as they are now? Like, do you think that they've run their course? Like, what do you think about how the gaming landscape has been changed by Battle Royale games?
You want to answer this one first, Brad?
Go ahead, Brad.
Sure, I know how to make stuff up as I go. So, I mean, my first Battle Royale was definitely Fortnite. The first time I played was with Kyle and our boy Dynamic. Shout out to Dynamic. And also Soyrim, I think, might have been.
He was there one time.
Yeah. So I can't remember who the first party was, but I remember it being an extremely different experience. Like, I'm in my 20s. I've been playing games my whole life. But this felt so unique. And what was
new.
So, yeah, it was so new. And what was so fun about it was that it seemed like nobody knew how to play the game. Now it's just like oh, like you just land and grab and you do this and you move and you do that. And it's kind of almost kind of like a first person shooter. You just know how they work. So for me, I thought like every game needed Battle Royale. Like in my mind. Like,
oh, really? You liked it?
Publishers thought that too.
Yeah, but it's interesting because
they agree with
I
me.
actually think that there's an untapped gold mine of games that could probably do really, really well with Battle Royale. But because PUBG and Fortnite emphasize our first person shooters, and as much as the game industry likes to pretend like it's willing to take risks, it's not. So they just took games that already existed with that type of gameplay and have shoehorned it in, right? Like there's been some like magic based ones. There've been a few like here or there, but I feel like I haven't really seen a battle royale that's really done something different than Fortnite, you know? Like it's just get weapon. I mean, Apex, I mean, PUBG, I mean, they're just all the same game with different, you know, flavors. I'd love
coat of paint.
With different coat of paint. And yes, they're significantly different, but I pretty much know that because I'm better at Apex, I'm better at Fortnite. Just from a like gameplay standpoint. But as far as like what I think about it from a landscape standpoint, I would love to see genres like finding ways to make genres that don't traditionally make sense. Like if it's let's take like a Zelda based mechanic game, that kind of mechanic, but make that a battle royale, right? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And I think the future could really have some, like we could create new genres off of this if we started to like experiment a little bit. So I'm happy that battle royale games exist. I think they're like the next big thing, like open world adventure games, like the Grand Theft Autos and what they did for the gaming space. I just want to see them take that next step. That's my thought.
Yeah. So as you said, my baby's first battle royale was also Fortnite. And boy, so when I first played that game, it was on actually the PC I have now, but my internet, because I live in the country, next to some cows and corn,
in the cut,
was horrible. And I still had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
I was running the game at maybe about 3 frames per second, and none of my inputs would register. But I could hear you guys screaming about stuff I didn't understand, and so it was a whole lot of fun. But to your idea about, I guess, other types of games and publishers and stuff, diving into, I guess, what makes battle royale games like broader. So it has like seeped into other stuff, mostly by way of battle passes, because since they really popularized battle passes, I see that in every type of game, regardless of what its genre is, you know. But then on top of that, I think the bridge between like regular games and battle royale games is kind of what Fall Guys did, which is introduce eliminations in a way that's, I guess, you can consider it to be more independent than something like a shooter, because you shoot someone to eliminate them, while in Fall Guys you do something well on your own to eliminate someone else. And so a couple of the games that I saw that kind of fit in this realm also were actually on the Switch. You might remember these, Steve, but the first one I think might have been Tetris 99.
Oh, yeah.
And that was considered to be a battle royale game because it had 99 simultaneous players. You could see everybody else's screen. Yeah. Making matches in your screen would cause like an explosion or something, and you'd send things to someone else's screen. I didn't play it very much, so I don't really know the deep mechanics. I didn't know if you could choose who you attacked, who you targeted.
No, I don't think so.
But anyway, so this gave you the ability to quote unquote shoot other people by doing well, and then they eliminate, or they get eliminated if, of course, the regular Tetris mechanics play out on your screen. So if you reach the top line and can't make any more, what are they called? Is it called a Tetris whenever you get a line all the way across? Or is that just when you get 5 rows?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a word.
So so if you don't get the matches and it fills up your screen, then you get knocked out. And so you can send pieces to other people's screens and stuff. And so that was, I think, one of those risks, if you will. I don't know if that game is still around, but supposedly it did pretty well. And then there was another Battle Royale on the Switch that was for a limited time only. And it was the Super Mario Battle Royale.
It was like Mario 99, I think.
Yeah, I think it was also 99. But it was vanilla Mario pretty much. But it felt kind of like an in-between between Mario and Mario Maker, where you do something on your screen, it affects somebody else's screen. Very similar to Tetris 99. But then at the same time, also a huge departure from what we know to be the, quote-unquote Battle Royale. So I think there have been a couple attempts with, different, varying, what would you call it, levels of success.
Interesting. Sir Steve?
Well, it's funny you talked about battle passes. I think I'm trying to think of other factors that might have gone into this, but what I thought of wasn't necessarily battle passes, but was free multiplayer, which of course also means battle passes. Because up to this point, most games that had multiplayer, like that had a multiplayer mode, that had multiple modes, you just paid. It was just part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But now a lot of games are coming out with a free multiplayer mode, like as a separate title that you can download without buying the campaign. So Halo did that. I believe that like Call of Duty did that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Smart model.
I think PUBG was paid. I believe that's what Fortnite did, right? Isn't the whatever survival mode? Isn't that a paid license?
Yeah, you still got to pay for that.
Yeah, so that's a cool mechanic. Not a mechanic. Whoops. That's a cool
whoopsie
change in the industry. Free multiplayer, but then you pay for it with season passes and microtransactions. And honestly, I don't think that's bad. I know there's a lot of hatred around in-game stores and stuff, but I'm like, look, if you're not being predatory, which a lot of people are, microtransactions, not great. Battle passes, okay. What is it? Loot boxes, really bad.
Boo.
Loot boxes are bad. So, I mean, if you avoid that kind of thing, then I think a free game supported by microtransactions is not a big deal. Now, with these companies, this is unrelated. These companies that are putting out fully paid games with also in-game microtransaction stores, you should be ashamed of yourselves. This is why I hate capitalism.
Detestable.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I think it's very interesting because I think in many ways Fortnite inherited the benefits of the free-to-play era, which preceded Battle Royales, right? So you had games like, what's your favorite game, Kyle?
Genshin Impact?
No, I'm talking older game, much older game.
It's a free game?
It's a free game. It's a shooter. You play with other people. You can wall run. It's like a futuristic...
Oh, Warframe.
Oh, yeah.
Games like Warframe. Man, there's so many back in the day that were just simply like free to play. Like that started to become the model, especially for online games, online only games.
Mobile games,
free to play. But the big differentiator between those games is that a lot of your progress, your abilities, the things you do were permanent. So I'm level 50. I have a level 50 attributes, right? And that's where the phrase pay to win came from, right? Like, oh, it's free to play, but it's pay to win, right? Like if I want to be good, I have to pay money. And sure, maybe in some cases you can play long enough to get these things for free. But at the end of the day, it's pay to win. But I think where Battle Royales were the perfect match for free to play is that since every match is completely instanced, meaning you come in with nothing and you never carry anything over, it was like
just like life.
Just like life. You come in naked and afraid, you leave naked and afraid.
You get nothing.
I come from the trenches. But I think it's one of those things where it was just a perfect setup. Like the free-to-play model existed. It just hadn't found a viable mechanic that didn't feel like pay to win, And Battle Royales were perfect. And Fortnite did a great job early on just saying cosmetics, you know, and of course Apex and all these other games picked that on up on that
suit,
you know. So it's a very interesting to see. And yeah, Battle Passes was brand new, but it's interesting because I feel like other games could have done it before. It's just Fortnite came up with it first, you know, like a season.
Yeah.
Because
I think they perfected it because it definitely existed in ways because the seasonal thing I think was more tied to actual seasons, you know, summer, winter, fall, autumn, and so like they did their own thing on top of also resetting because there are some games that still after the season ends, like your level and stuff doesn't reset, and like weird things that don't really make a season feel like a big deal. And they were making it feel like a big deal before they even had all the lore and stuff. It was just like, oh, a new season means a new map.
Yeah.
It means the new cosmetics are things that you can only get from the season. And they're never going to be in the random loot pool, which was also unique.
Which is cool.
Not loot pool, store.
Did you just say fall and autumn?
Did I?
He said fall / autumn. No, I'm kidding.
Spring. Did I forget spring? There was one. I said 4 and just committed.
You said 4. You said fall twice.
Oh, so yeah, fall guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's all true. I think. So I was saying about free games. I think that the reason that they did that is because, well, what's good, right? So what's good here is that back in the day, if you wanted to play Halo with your friends, you had to either be all in the same box because couch co-op still existed, or all your friends had to buy Halo. And they had to buy an Xbox because games only came out on like one or two consoles. So that sucked. But, you know, these days games come out all over the place, so that's not quite as important if they have crossplay. But the issue still remained, you had to buy a game if you wanted to play with your friends. And that would really not work for a game where you're going to have 60 or 80 people playing together and you might die in 3 minutes. And then you have to go through this long queue up process. They needed as many people to play this game as possible. And so let's just say, hey, let's make the multiplayer free. You can just download it and install it, sign up for free, and you're good to go. That way, you know, you avoid a lot of these issues from, like, you know, as these multiplayer games die over time. It's like a self-fulfilling, it's like a vicious cycle because, you know, the fewer people are playing, the longer you have to wait in queue to like get a match, and the more people quit. So like Fortnite's great for just that reason because look, man, I hate dying after 3 minutes, but I'm so glad that it only takes like 40 or 50 seconds to queue up again because I mean, I hated that it took that long, but God, I can't imagine if it took like 2 or 3 minutes to queue up every time.
And the point about buy-in, that's a really good point.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I actually think that the two models, say the Halo, you know, and the Fortnite models are basically dictated by the same thing, server costs, right? And I think the old generation, it was difficult to justify having a multiplayer game because live service games weren't a thing yet, except for like World of Warcraft, right? Live service meaning you pay a monthly fee to continue playing the game, right?
Or a battle pass in this case.
Yeah, so what happened with World of Warcraft, the live service games, you paid a $12 a month. Basically, you're paying to play on their servers, right? Like, because they have to manage servers, they have to pay for it. And one-time purchase of World of Warcraft couldn't justify the existence of this persistent, always-on server, right?
Yeah, perpetual game.
Now, the benefit of a Halo is that a Halo's multiplayer, because it's on a console, it's getting a lot of publishing presence. People buy beforehand, right? A ton of copies. And basically they can say, we have basically budgetary means to have these servers running, but also we can limit the number of servers that exist. You know what I'm saying? Like there's the economics behind it.
Yeah.
Fortnite in the free to play model in particular said, this is what we'll do. We're going to take a gambit. we're going to basically test if a game is worth the server time, right? And we'll let the whales, the people who spend the most money in a game, basically pay for the time of other people, right? So I'm going to buy all the cosmetics in Fortnite, right? I'm actually paying for like 100 other players to play on the servers. You know, it's kind of like a democratized way of allowing more people to play together, which is
a communal way.
Communal, yeah. It's the people who can afford to pay basically help the people who can't afford to play, which makes, like you said, a larger pool of players, which means lower matchmaking times, all that jazz. Where Halo had to depend on purely the front side of it, like economically. And that's why a lot of games have shut down servers. Like, we ain't making no money off this. Ain't not enough people bought the game. They gone, you know?
Yeah, I don't even think it's the whales. I think by and large, I mean, obviously they do. Obviously, Epic is making a huge profit on Fortnite. So it isn't just the whales. I think a lot of people buy in to some extent. Plus, you know, servers are cheaper now than they used to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, there's lots. It was the perfect time, right? Cloud computing has gotten to the point where something like a big 60-person video game instance is actually feasible. Like a shooter, you know, where latency matters. You know, that wasn't feasible back when World of Warcraft was still hot. I don't think it was.
Not with the number of players.
Not with, yeah. And what else? I mean, yeah, just all the different things came together. It was a perfect time.
You made me think of, so one thing I do miss, though, are LAN parties. We were talking about this, I guess, in our Couch Co-op episode. Mm-hmm. But I was going through yesterday, or the other day, I was in my study, and I have like all of my Xbox 360 games on a DVD rack in there. Mm-hmm. And I have 4 copies of Halo 3. Because what would happen is everybody had an Xbox. Everybody had an Xbox, right? But not everybody had a copy of the game. Mm-hmm. So you'd meet up and they'd say, oh, you said you wanted to play Halo. But we had a couple of Halos at that point. And so I remember raiding a GameStop with a couple of guys. And then I think each of us bought a copy. But then they were like, you know what? You hold on to them because we're usually going to play together. And so, and so like being able to play together offline, you know, is something that, I mean, you have to be in the same room for sure, which I don't think spoils the experience at all. But it's definitely something that we're not getting today, I guess, even though we're having these huge lobbies and stuff. But your comment earlier about everybody having to buy a copy and stuff, maybe reminisce a little bit.
I mean, you can still have LAN parties. Brad hasn't, but Kyle and I were part of a monthly meeting in Louisiana of Nintendo aficionados.
Yeah.
Bring your own Switch.
I mean, you could definitely do it with some games, you know.
With some games, right. Yeah. Depending on the game. But like there are games, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I feel,
and even games like Fortnite that don't explicitly support LAN mode, you could all just bring your consoles into a room and have them on different TVs. Like you could still have the LAN experience. You would just be connected not by LAN.
Yeah, I mean you have to have a private server that Fortnite allows you to host or something.
No. You don't need to do like
if you want to play together, yeah, you gotta have a private server.
Oh, you know, I'm thinking if you want to play 4 people together, because I was thinking, just make a party. But you're right. If you want to have 16, 20 people playing in the same battle.
If you want to play, I mean, if you want 100 people to play together, you got to do it. You know, yeah, go ahead.
I think that points out kind of just the times though, is that like, I don't know. I never went to one of these old classic LAN parties with like Halo 2 or something, but I feel like, I think the biggest LAN party I ever went to for Halo was like 12 people. And then Nintendo for the bring your own Switch parties, I would get like 15, we would get like 15 people. Like that's not worth, you know, for a game where you're going to have 60 people in a server. Like I don't have 60 friends.
Tech on the small end would have LAN parties with like 150 people.
Okay.
Like
but what were they playing? Were they all playing one instance, or were they playing a bunch of instances?
It just kind of depended on what the LAN party was. I mean, like I'm not that. First of all, I was too broke and not old enough to also be a person who was like embedded in the landscape. Get it?
Ooh,
I see what you did.
Got him.
But
give that man a child, because
there were definitely huge LAN events. Huge.
I believe it.
So
I wasn't there either.
But I think the point being that like it's just different. Like like you're just like like to make a Fortnite, like you need 100 people minimum, right? Like to make it like really a Fortnite game, Yeah. So it definitely, changes. So something I was thinking about in general, because I said a little bit earlier, I was like, yo, more games. I wish there was more diverse mechanics for battle royales, but I don't think it's necessarily that there aren't people who have cool ideas. I think that it's just like a very difficult thing to do,
For sure.
Like,
you mean like balancing or like world building?
Multiplayer games.
All of it. All of it.
Right.
I definitely think gameplay mechanics hard, but like Kyle just said, the multiplayer aspect of it, I think purely is like the ultimate like wall to entry, because the benefit of a general multiplayer game that exists like a Halo is that in general, you don't really care about the state of the world, right? It's just, you just have a place where people play together, and the only thing you care about is the health of the players, what weapons they have, and the damage they do to each other, right? But in battle royales,
other things,
you kind of have to manage the whole world state with 100 people at the same time. You need to be aware of everybody's weapons, what they're dropping, what other people are picking up, and it's just a huge like
what
networking,
they're building, what they're breaking. Is this chest open? Somebody send it across the map because they hit it with a car.
I mean, these are solved problems though. Like
they're solved in the same way that like we've solved a way to go to space. Like there is a way to do it, but for most people, it's economically infeasible to do it. How many indie battle royale games are you aware of?
And then of those, how many are good?
How many exist? Just name one.
I did play one on itch the other day.
And it was a battle royale. Was it an IO game?
Among Us.
No, not Among Us. I don't remember the name of it, but it was just some random shooter. You load in and there was like 60 people. But I'm guessing it's indie because it was on itch. But maybe it was a
battle
studio.
royale, like drop in with nothing, pick stuff up, all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
it wasn't good.
So I mean, it probably didn't have like wolves walking around and chests to break.
I mean, it's always a bare bones experience when it comes to the indie stuff. There's no flourish. It's pretty much what you described. Like somebody got the base multiplayer functionality working and may have added one or two more things, and then to make it, I guess, to put it over that hurdle of being put into the battle royale genre. You can pick up a weapon and you can shoot somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like that's like the first step, the mechanic, right? Getting it working. And then there's just so many more like networking difficulties. You got to think about matchmaking, not even skill-based matchmaking, but just matchmaking. I bet you that game on itch doesn't really consider like where people are on the globe, and how that impacts the gameplay for everybody and what servers you put them on and blah, 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 blah. It's like there's such an intense like front load. So like to me, I feel like that will always detriment the ability for battle royale games to like really like take over. Like you can't do a battle royale game without a very, very knowledgeable networking team,
Sure, yeah. That's fair. What's crazy to me, what's frustrating to me is how goofy and obnoxious Fortnite is. Like sometimes it really just drives me crazy how they'll just take any old IP and just throw it in there.
Yeah, money.
And it feels to me, to someone who like likes comics or likes movies or whatever, sometimes it can feel kind of disrespectful. Like, oh, you're breaking down this like esteemed IP and you're just making it into cash grab pretty much. But then it's also really frustrating because they do such a good job. Like everything is always pitch perfect. It's always fun. And it all works for the most part.
Yeah, like stuff that fundamentally shouldn't be acceptable, like Batman carrying a gun. We just accept it because it's Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like, didn't we have a squad with Darth Vader, Batman,
and Thanos?
You know? Like, that's the most epic squad, you know? And I mean, Fortnite's definitely the only game that has ever pulled that off, and probably the only game that ever will. I know that Fall Guys did like a Jungle Book. Like, they got them like IPs that are about to expire.
Oh yeah,
you know,
they grabbed them up though.
You know, we
you
got
Baloo, don't you?
They got Winnie the Pooh in there. You know,
who even are these characters?
You know,
like their fan base, the people that play their game don't know who those characters are.
I mean, that's the truth for Fortnite too. They did John Wick, and I can still hear it echoing in my head. Oh, is that guy from Fortnite?
Yeah, where does that generate from? It's like, oh,
it makes you want to punt a child.
hurt my soul. Yeah, but I think that's the nice thing about battle royales. It's just you can go and you know what? Let's talk about battle royales as far as like being an adult gamer, because I feel like battle royales have been the genre that I tend to go to now because of the ability to play and be done with it and walk away and not have to think about it. Like, y'all know what I mean? Like, I can just play y'all with y'all for 30, 45 minutes and it's done. You know, we in and we out. Y'all feel me on that?
Yeah, like
go ahead, Kyle. Whoa. I said go ahead first.
Got him.
Okay. So, I'll admit that right now I am itching to play God of War. But I know just how much energy that's going to take and how much time. And it's like you said, like Fortnite, I don't have to think about it. I load it in, right? I ready up, and then the game is exactly the same. A linear game, especially one that's as deep and meaty and beautiful as God of War, I don't want to miss a thing. And I don't want something to happen to where I'm like playing tired, or there's been like a week between sessions, so I'm trying to remember what happened last time. All these different things I just don't want to experience while I'm playing that game. I don't even have to consider when I play Fortnite, because even if I haven't played Fortnite for like 6 months, fundamentally, I know it's going to be the same thing. And I appreciate that about it.
Yeah.
That's true. You know, it's cool to not have to consider the entire like context of what you were doing last when you start a new game up. That's always the most exhausting thing for me. Mm-hmm. It's like, God, what was I doing? You know, especially JRPGs, we were talking about those. Man. That's the worst thing, man.
Yeah.
I never beat Pokemon Shield. I beat all 8 gym leaders, and I'm on the route somewhere on the way to whatever the end of this game looks like. And I've never done it. And I picked it up to play, I don't know, a few days ago or a few weeks ago. And Pokemon is kind of simple and dumb enough that I was still able to play. But I did have to take like 10 minutes and just look at my party. Right. And be like, what are my strats again? Like, I was like, why is this Pokemon holding this item? And then I realized like, oh, that Pokemon picks up random items. I should be taking them out of his hands so I get items. But I forgot for like 30 minutes. Just dumb stuff. But, like, that's a baby game. And you forget, I picked up Final Fantasy Remake, and that legitimately took me, like, a half hour, like, just fumbling. Because that not only is that a complex game, but it actually has real-time battle mechanics, so I can't sit around when it's my turn. On the other hand, like any multiplayer game, I do feel kind of constrained. Like, you say you can just pick up and play 30, 40 minutes. You can't play an exact amount of time because A, you might die early and want to play more, and B, you might not die and end up in a full like super long match, and you just don't know how long it's going to be. And so I find it kind of hard, the prospect of starting a game like that. I have to make sure I have like a pretty wide indefinite window of time ahead of me, whereas most other games autosave often enough that I feel pretty comfortable. Like, okay, I can play any amount of time, and then when it's dinner time or whatever, or I have to go for something, I can stop what I'm doing. I don't have to be like, I'm online. I'll be in a minute.
Yeah. You got to make sure the minimum amount of time you have is the maximum amount of time a match could take.
Yeah.
Or ideally, it'd be the maximum amount of time that 2 matches could take, so that you could play 2 or 3 matches.
Yeah, I agree and disagree. I think I get what you're saying, but I think that
you're wrong.
And I've done this many times. If I have to go, I can just quit. And there's nothing. I don't lose anything. You know, like
that's true.
I don't lose anything. Maybe my teams might be mad at me, but if I'm playing with randos, I really don't care. If I'm playing with y'all,
I'll never see you again.
If I'm playing with y'all, I'm likely to say, "Hey, y'all, I just gotta go. I'm so sorry," and y'all will just deal with it, or y'all
never
might
play with you again.
Y'all might just quit and go start a new game. But I don't feel like, for example, Deathloop. I still haven't finished because if I play Deathloop, I don't like even though like one level of Deathloop is kind of like a 15 to 20 minute experience. I also feel like I have to be fast because it doesn't save until you start your next day. And
so it doesn't autosave that often.
Exactly. So your autosave is you getting, it's like kind of a little bit old school. So Deathloop is like the worst example of any game because it's kind of old school. But even with like a God of War, like I don't want to play 15 minutes of God of War.
No.
Like I don't want to play 20 minutes
That's
or
fair.
30 minutes. Like to me, that's an unsatisfactory experience because I'm not really getting the groove. But I literally can jump in a Fortnite match, play for 5 minutes, die, 10 minutes, die. And then I'm like, oh, I actually have to go to the store. And then I can just turn it off and keep moving. And, you know, so I think to me, that's a very accessible game. And I think
that's I agree with what you're saying. I was just saying there's another element to it.
No, I feel you. And and that's what I said. I get what you're saying. I agree and disagree. Yeah. Like I've definitely been late to things because the game went much longer than I expected. Mm-hmm. And we're like in the top 5 and I'm like, yo.
Yeah, you get invested. Yeah. You don't want to. And in Fortnite, I said it out loud. There it is, boys.
Hey, Fortnite.
In Fortnite, you aren't penalized for quitting because it doesn't matter to the game. But there are other games
that do penalize you. Yeah.
And you're like, I don't want to quit because I don't want to get gotten by Nintendo or someone.
Degree.
Do they?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like League of Legends would, but I don't play that one anymore.
Well, League of Legends, any like small team based battle should penalize you because you're hurting your team.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, you're on a squad in Fortnite.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like nothing's. I don't know. Like the large scheme of things, the battle will continue with or without you. I don't know. I feel like it's okay in a battle royale game. In other team based games, they should penalize you.
You're biased.
I could be. Man, I got. I was playing Death Stranding, which I still haven't beaten. After
Bro, you got all these long games in your backlog that you've started.
I know it's a nightmare. That's why I'm not. That's why I haven't bought God of War yet because I'm like I can't bring myself to do it. I was playing Death Stranding, which is still phenomenal. The reason I haven't beaten it is there's a few reasons, but it's not because I don't like it. And I think it was like Keisha wanted to hang out, and I was like, all right, she wanted to hang out, but I was in a zone where I couldn't save. And I was like, look, I'm going to finish. I'll be like 5 minutes. Let me get out of this no save zone, and I'll just go ahead and save and quit. And then I got out of the no save zone, and I was like, well, look, let me just finish this delivery because that's like a good stopping point.
You know? On the couch.
So I went to finish the delivery, but they hit me with that surprise cutscene. It was Kojima has no shame. This was like a 15-minute cutscene.
Yep.
And you can't do anything. I was like just watching. But yeah, and it isn't even like I pushed the button to like, finish the delivery. It was like as I walked up to the building, it started. I'm like,
into the zone.
This is a really random side note. But this is actually why I really like the modern state of games because like if the game has the ability to actually be paused, right? Like say Deathloop, I'm playing and then Shylene says, hey, we need to go now for some reason, right? Yeah. I pause and I put my PlayStation 5 into rest mode, like,
yeah.
that is like as close to a save state as I'm going to get, you know? And I can come back and
I've done that before,
you know, and that's just a weird, I know I was just thinking about, I really sympathize with your story, and especially the cutscene, because cutscenes are even more dangerous, because say you want to press start, like some games pause the cutscene. Some just straight out skip it
forever.
So you kind of have to be like, well, how important is this to me?
Yeah, I usually get a feel for the cutscenes early. I think you can pause the cutscenes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
The issue, and this is something I've never thought of. I'm always questioning myself: should I buy it on console or on PC? Here's another factor in that consideration. If I buy it on console, I can just do what you said, right? I can, especially if I don't play very often, I can, like, if I'm not worried about sharing it and someone else coming in and like ruining my game, I can just pause it and put it in standby. But on my computer, I don't really want to do that because I don't want my computer just running at full tilt, you know, rendering a game in pause for hours. And I also don't really know how like going into standby would affect the game. So it's just so questionable. I would never let it happen.
Yeah. And sometimes,
especially since I dual boot into Windows, and sometimes if Windows goes into standby and I pull it out, it'll just restart and go to Linux.
Pain.
And I'm like, God, I don't even know what that would do to the state of the system.
Oh, God bless.
So, yeah, that was the conundrum I had. I had to finish out.
I was going to say
that's why I haven't beaten Death Stranding, because it's in such a precarious playing position for me.
Sometimes those pause menus be going too hard too. So
how's that?
Like the designers be just doing too much. Where the pause menu just got a bunch of stuff going on. It don't need all that.
So still processing.
So if you got the game paused,
this feels like a totally unrelated complaint.
No, you were just talking about the pause menu.
All I'll say is on my computer, if I put my computer on standby and there's an application running, sometimes it'll just hard crash. Like I'll come back, especially if I do that multiple times, like for sure. It'll just do its equivalent to a blue screen of some form. So yeah, I 100% feel you on that, Steve. Like I'm not willing to take that risk.
I mean, I remember back in the day, like on PlayStation, I remember distinctly on my Kingdom Hearts 2 run, I would have to leave my PlayStation 2 on for days
just running
because something would happen. I'd have to leave, and there wasn't a save point for the last like 40 minutes. And I'm not turning this thing off.
Worst case scenario,
but you don't tell your parents that.
Yeah, exactly. Worst case scenario, you leave it on, don't tell nobody, and somebody goes, "Why this game on?" Click.
Well, thankfully, they didn't know how any of my stuff worked.
They just unplug it. That's what my family did.
Well, what he means is probably that they didn't realize it was on because they didn't understand the light.
Yeah, it was the slim, so it had that little bitty light on in the front,
little tiny green light. Yeah.
Also, so it looked like a VCR that had like a running light on.
Also, my dad would say, "Don't leave the game paused because it would burn the pixels out on the screen." So the only thing what I would have to do is turn the TV off, then kind of gingerly push the console in a place that like it can't be seen to be on, and then inform them, "Hey, please don't turn off the system," and just hope that like if they forget, they don't see the system. 2, that nobody comes down and turns the TV on and notices that it's been running, and then my dad goes, "Wait, this might mess up the pixels," and then so
you couldn't just change it. You couldn't just change the channel on the TV to something else and then turn it off.
That's adult logic. No, I'm kidding.
Children don't think that far.
Nah, that's actually not a bad idea. I never thought.
I was hiding everything, bro.
I mean, so okay. I want to talk about
pixels is the best pixels.
Let's talk about battle royales.
Well, I want to talk about another element of battle royales that I think personally, and I'd love to hear y'all's opinion. Why I think they're so compelling to me now, especially in my state of life, is the communal aspect of it, where I can play with y'all, because it's kind of now a thing where I get to hang out with my friends while I'm doing something that I enjoy, like if I have the opportunity, like, sure, I definitely want to play God of War, Deathloop, all these different things. But if I find out that y'all's schedule aligns with mine with free time, I will be like, "Hey, y'all want to run some?" You know what I'm saying?
Social, baby.
And I'm definitely not a social butterfly, but I do enjoy my friends. Shout out to Super Agile Bros and super agile associates. But like
super agile acquaintances.
I think it's one of those things where it's kind of almost reinvigorated my like multiplayer passion. For me, it died when I basically left college. I used to play with friends and like Smash Brothers and stuff like that. But I pretty much was like, well, I guess I'll only play single player games for the rest of my life, So I've been thankful for Battle Royales because I think they're the most enjoyable multiplayer experiences that I can have, and that are also like not a thing where, oh, you're 10 levels ahead of me and I need to catch up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter that Steve joins and he's level 1 and we're level 85. Like, it's the same game, So
yeah.
And the matchmaking is so good that you really don't even feel it. Because and that's the issue I think we had kind of with Apex, is that we were level 1s playing with a level 85, and we played against only level 85s and up. And that's not fun. So to at least, they bridge the gap, I think, is another thing that also makes Fortnite, one of the better Battle Royales, is that it's very good for new players, which is hard to do in general with any game, much less a multiplayer game.
I just want to take this moment to specify to anybody listening today that we have mostly been talking about the no build mode.
Fortnite.
Yes. We haven't talked about that.
Yeah, definitely a very, very important point.
Yeah.
Yes.
No build mode all the way. Zero.
I forgot there was a build mode.
Yeah, I keep thinking we play with another friend, and at one point I think it was me. I was trying to convince him that we would play Fortnite. He was like, "Oh, what do you guys want to play?" And like halfway through the conversation, he's like, "Zero build, right?" And we're like, yeah, of course. Like, we forgot.
Yeah, there is no other mode.
Yeah.
I assume there's people who still play build mode, and they're all 12, so I'm good.
Oh, that brings up
or
a question.
Or there's 7. That little rapper.
Oh boy.
Oh gosh. Well, he's busy harming his family members.
True.
Anyway, so I was. It got me thinking though. What you just said, Steve. Do you think we'd appreciate no build mode if not for build mode?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think we would. We would definitely. You think we would like it? Is that what you're asking? We would
Would we appreciate it as much if we hadn't experienced, I guess, just how bad build mode was, or how bad it became?
So.
Yes, I think we would still appreciate it because I appreciate Apex and it doesn't have a build mode, right? Like, I appreciate the mechanics and playing the game and enjoying it and not having to think about a stupid mechanic, right? Like, not because a stupid mechanic exists. You know what I'm saying? Like, I enjoy the game because it's good, and.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. like, are we talking about enjoying the game? Or I take it, I wonder if Kyle's asking if we would be as quote unquote thankful, like grateful that they graced us with a zero build mode.
I guess that's part of the question. It was a weird question, I'll admit. But
it's a weird question.
But I guess it was coming off of the idea that the reason why I think Fortnite has been so enjoyable of an experience is because we remember what old Fortnite was. And so it's like it's kind of like twofold. It's like we did like Fortnite before, but now it's better. So if it hadn't ever gotten better, would we still be playing it? Because I remember it was fine earlier, and we didn't quit from what I remember because build mode was so terrible.
I don't know about you guys. I never played with build mode. So
bless your heart.
So yeah, like for me, so here's the thing, right? My thinking is, you mentioned Apex, right? I feel like part of the love that we had for Apex, at least for me, was that it was not a building game. It was Fortnite without some of the extra crap, but specifically without building. And then we soured on Apex over time. And then no build came up and became more popular.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's where we are.
I mean,
now if there was never a build mode, I think maybe you guys would have been playing it earlier, like years ago, and maybe I would have joined you, and maybe by now we would have lost the taste for it, as we might do in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to remove the past. Like, it's hard for me to actually say definitively, but personally, how I think about games is I don't think a game is good because it's less trash than a trash game. You know, it's just the game is either worth my time or it's not. I think why Fortnite soured on me personally is not because of build mode's mechanic in its like existence. I thought it was like an interesting mechanic and I was like interested in learning it. It was just that there's just a point where there was nothing I could do if I wasn't the best builder. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like
it completely skews the meta.
Yeah, even on the lowest level,
and it's not fun.
The lowest level gamer in Fortnite is like an incredible builder, building weird structures, and it's just like, okay,
it created a separate, I guess, skill gap, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I could see that for sure. Yeah,
it's hard enough to shoot a person, but back in the day, people were so trash they could neither shoot nor build. And it was great because we were all trash. Then we got a little bit better at shooting, a little better at building. But the problem was shooting, the only way to get better was to fight people, right? Building, you could go and hide in the corner and just do that by yourself. So it then created that skill gap, and to be honest, I mean, let me ask y'all about Apex, for example, from a Battle Royale standpoint. And this is something that I think maybe it's not understated, but something that is going to have to get solved. It's the skill-based matchmaking systems in these multiplayer Battle Royale games. Because I think they make all the difference. Like, I'd probably still be playing Apex to this day if skill-based matchmaking wasn't absolutely garbage. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree. Yeah, because I think it goes down to it was a similar feeling to in Fortnite when somebody could outbuild you or would just build and then appear behind you or something like it, because you don't actually get into a fight. You don't actually experience the game because
they're get sniped.
Yeah, they're playing a different game, and so like you don't get to play the game with people at your level who are playing the same game you are. You're in the same lobby. You're playing the same. It's Apex, but they're playing a different game fundamentally. They're doing something. They're a whole other level, and it's not fun.
Deep ocean.
It's not fun.
Yeah, and then
and I wonder if it's fun for them. When I play Smash Bros with people that are just not good, like I don't get excited. Mm-hmm. I try to find ways to make it more even. Like, oh, maybe we do team battles, or maybe we handicap me, or we do something. I play random characters. But that's just not fun if you're just stomping on everybody.
But see, the problem is you're a stable person. Like, like
it's true.
The problem is you have
morals,
you have empathy.
Character. Yeah, and you have a healthy like lifestyle, and you have like friends and a family, and you have your wife and things that give you meaning. So for you, this game is just, you know what I mean? Like the game doesn't add value beyond it being fun. And it being a little bit of a challenge here or there, and then you having that good match with people on your level, and you're like, I bested them just by a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, that's a great feeling because your life is relatively good, right? I don't want to call horrible people, but sad.
Smurfs.
Half people.
Smurfs, half people. People who are not in a good place, they do get joy from crushing ants. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They get validated because they won something.
I'm better than you. Ha, look at you. You're so trash. You're so terrible. Look at you. You're so bad. Like, dude, I'm not trash. You're just incredible. Like it's Mike Tyson going to an amateur boxing match. Everybody dies. And Mike Tyson's out here gloating over dead bodies. You know what I mean? Like it's
nobody's celebrating with you, Mike.
They're all
dead. You have no more opponents. And I think that's where Fortnite to me has, and once again, we're kind of harping on Fortnite, but really the Battle Royale gen, but Fortnite does a great job of the skill-based matchmaking because sometimes you're fighting bots, right? But bots give you that feeling of a little bit of accomplishment, right? You killed somebody, you're getting that flow. You know what I'm saying? It's like the warm-up. And then eventually you're then dealing with people within your skill range, And sometimes they're really good, right? Like, we've been worked before, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it hasn't felt like absolutely insurmountable. It's like, oh, okay, these people are just better than me. Maybe I'll be better one day. But like when somebody's building around you and then, you know, you're like, what in the world is even happening? You know?
Insurmountable odds. Yeah. Because even, and we kind of clown on the bots, but early on, bots will catch you slipping.
Yeah, we were trash and bots were real.
So you're asking about Apex, what I think about Apex?
Yeah, like what made
versus
you...
Fortnite?
I mean, the reason I stopped playing Apex was because of the skill-based matchmaking. And I think Kyle somewhat reflects that. What made you stop that?
The reason I stopped playing Apex was because you two stopped playing Apex.
Oopsie.
Yeah, I mean,
Look, man, I bought Gears of War to play with one group of people. I downloaded Apex and more recently Fortnite specifically to play with you guys. I don't even play DRG. And I like that game. Because no one else plays. What was I getting at? Anyway, but there are things I like better about Fortnite. So one thing I like better, or one thing that I didn't mind while I was playing Apex, but now that I'm playing Fortnite, I've really seen is there's no classes. And so, you know... On one hand, the classes are cool because they add kind of a dynamism, but they do shift the meta. And I never really figured out how to earn more classes. I think you have to pay for them. Am I wrong?
To some degree.
Yeah, that's what it was. You had to buy a battle pass. You guys are saying if I buy a battle pass and then I just do the free stuff on the battle pass, it'll get me enough points to get the next battle pass, right? Okay, yeah. So you had to either pay or put in a decent amount of time, which I wasn't really willing or interested in doing. And I just figured, hey, look, there's plenty of free characters. I'll just play 2 or 3 of the free characters, and those will be my mains, and I'll be good with that. The issue, I think, is that a lot of people feel that way. And so, like, 80% of the people that maybe not that many, 60, 70% of the people that I fight in Apex are using one of the free characters. And then the remaining 40% are using a character that I never see.
Until it kills you.
And they clown me because I don't know how their stupid character works.
All their abilities.
Yeah, it's like fighting Isabel in Smash Bros. Like, you're like, wait, what does Isabel do? And then you get
and that person's good with Isabel. You're like, what?
Yeah, like it's that meta, man. I was watching this kind of a short video documentary about Smash Bros as a sport, and he was comparing in Melee how like nobody has a good Yoshi and like a really, really high level play. And then this dude Amza showed up and was winning tournaments, or a tournament, I think, with his Yoshi, because no one knew how to deal with Yoshi because everyone always played Fox and Falco and Marth.
Yep.
And he was comparing it to like a knuckleball, and he's like, look, in baseball you have a couple of different pitches, and the knuckleball, you have to be like really, really good at a knuckleball to have a good, like, you can't you can't like win. Yeah. You can't win with a knuckleball unless you put all your time and effort into being great at a knuckleball, and therefore nobody ever uses it. But therefore, if you are really good with it, then you always catch people slipping because they don't know how to deal with a knuckleball because it kind of waves and wobbles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a really cool, way to think about the meta. And so I feel like, people playing with the brand new character with Valkyrie, or the guy without a shirt, the Louisiana looking dude.
Was it Seer? Is that
Seer?
his name?
Seer. He said the Louisiana looking
his name
dude.
is Seer.
So disrespectful. Get it?
Kind of like he's from. Oh, he kind of do like, I guess, voodoo.
Does this man not look like the entire state of Louisiana?
He looks like New Orleans-ish.
This man looks like he came directly out of
living in Louisiana.
This man stumbled out of a New Orleans haunted house tour. He was birthed in those walls. He took a hat from the ground, and then he just walked into that game.
Like, all of his quips are about the bayou.
And the bayou would have died a long time ago.
Watch out for that gator.
I'm the one who eats.
And do his sausage.
Yeah, I feel like, the new characters are the meta. And there was one Crypto, the guy Crypto, he wasn't that new, but I never saw anyone play with him. But then every time I saw a drone, I was like, oh God, I don't know what to do with this. And then he takes down my shields and I die. It's just easy mode with these characters, but I don't want to buy them. So it's nice that Fortnite doesn't have that, I might get got with like a lightsaber or a Kamehameha or get run over by a truck with a cow catcher on it. But at least I had the opportunity to use those weapons too. They were just on the ground.
Nothing is walled off. Yeah, that's a very good point.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's an interesting, because like if you think about a standard multiplayer gaming in general, the meta can only shift so much, right? Because the mechanics don't shift very much, right? Like maybe somebody finds what I would like to call an exploit, like something that gives them an undue or unfair advantage to the rest of the population for some period of time until the rest of the population realize, oh, like, yeah, crouch spamming, right? That's like an exploit to me. Like the first person who started crouch spamming, just, on people was probably murking everybody. You know what I'm saying? But that's one mechanic. But when you have to deal with, I don't know how many characters they have now in Apex, like what, 20?
It's a lot. It's a couple rows of them. I don't know.
They're about to have a Smash Brothers roster. And each of them are like paper, scissors, rocks with different characters and like how you use that ability. And then you're also dealing with the massive multiplayer aspect of the game. So you're dealing with a lot of different people with a lot of different skill levels with all the different classes. It's a lot.
And I was actually just talking to our guy, Oren, who we were playing Fortnite with. He was telling me that the newest character, I don't know her name or anything about her, but apparently she has a wrecking ball. And so you guys remember when we were playing, there was Gibraltar, Gibby?
Yeah.
And he drops the big shield. He said, this is the only character in the game that is a hard counter because if you throw her wrecking ball at the shield, it breaks it. And so he said that nobody plays Gibraltar anymore because of that.
Just like that.
Yep.
And he was in every squad.
So this is an earlier question you asked about was like how this has changed the gaming landscape. I don't think I've noticed this change proliferate very much, but this is a really interesting way of doing things, right? So most games with lots of characters and fighting and stuff, if you want to keep the meta fresh and evolving, you add a new character and that character will have some new mechanic and that changes the meta, right? But there's two issues with that. Well, and that's fine, right? So Smash Bros does that. Obviously, like basically every fighting game does that, I assume, if they add new characters. What is it? Apex does that. They just keep adding new stuff. But instead of adding new characters, Fortnite's like, well, what if we just add a bonkers mechanic and everyone has it and then we just take it away later,
Like the ooze gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like the pumpkin rockets, lightsabers, kamehamehas, like
Nimbus.
There was web slinging for a while. Like there's all sorts of cool stuff.
And they can add game-breaking stuff.
They can add game-breaking stuff because it's only going to be there for a while. And if everyone hates it, they just won't. People hate it. They just don't play for a few weeks, right?
Tanks.
Like, no big loss.
It's so crazy that you say it, Steve. I was thinking the same exact thing. I was like, it's so interesting to see how in the landscape of battle royale games, them creating, because I feel like, well, let me ask y'all this before I say this. Do you think there's any other type of game type, genre, whatever you want to call it, that does really well with this kind of like seasonal thing, or like this, oh, this gun is here for a while and this gun goes away, or this thing is here and then it goes away? Like, is there any other game mechanic that you could imagine would do well with that seasonal approach?
I think it would have to be something that is multiplayer.
Okay.
Because if it's single player, then like based on when you buy the game and play, because when you buy a single player game, you're not trying to time it with other people. You just get it when you get it. Although there is like a communal aspect of playing alongside someone and talking about it afterwards. Anyway, you wouldn't want to imagine a an adventure. Imagine Skyrim, where every couple of months they like add a new dragon shout and then take it away and they add a different dragon shout, or like they'll add a fighter that, or they'll add not a fighter, they'll add like a sword that takes away gravity, and then everyone can be anti-grav. That would be That would be weird.
Like, who's that for?
Yeah, like what does that do? Like eventually, I'm gonna get tired of the game. I don't want to keep playing it, but a multiplayer game. Something I wanted to bring up earlier was that a battle royale has kind of some of the magic of a roguelike, which is what Brad was saying. We're like, oh, I can just pick it up and then there's no like context for my playthrough. I don't keep anything. I don't lose anything.
Yeah.
That's the fun of a roguelike, but the great part of a battle royale is they don't have to actually design randomness. The people are the roguelike elements.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, they have like random loot drops and this and that, but it's very much just the same game, but the people are the new factor. And that's what makes a game. That's why multiplayer is so important. And that's why I think you need multiplayer to have that, because I don't play the same. I don't want to play Metroid Prime like over and over just to experience what is essentially a mod, right? A temporary mod that's being forced on me.
I think
that's not fun.
The taking away is, I think, what really separates.
That's
because
important.
there are plenty
of
games, multiplayer games and single player games that just continue to add content. And so I think the taking away of things, especially when it comes to Fortnite, like they have no problems backpedaling. Like whether it be an emote that they got in trouble for, a skin that comes out that has accidental physics, as they said,
or a Martin Luther King skin that we all know exists, but they probably removed.
Oh, it's in there,
dude. I just watched the episode of Atlanta where some European fashionista guy makes like his 5-year anniversary shirt for his company, and it says Central Park 5 on the back. And it hard cuts to like the main characters being part of his endeavor to like apologize to the black community. Like that was the way the episode opened. It was terrible. Great. Anyway, yeah, Fortnite, Central Park 5.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying about Atlanta. No, so yeah, but just I think other companies, especially like EA or something, would like double down if they were putting stuff in the game and it became controversial, or if they. I don't think other publishers or other game genres are as quick to embrace the idea of something coming and going, except for like maybe maps. Yeah. But even then, it has to be the multiplayer experience, because even in a single player experience, like new maps wouldn't make a whole lot of a change, unless the only
maps
thing
are a bad idea.
The only thing that I can think of that's kind of like maybe in a weird space that could almost appreciate it is the speedrunning community. As far as like, since there's a big community, or maybe not speedrunners in general, but the communities that are around games that they play all the time. Like people always finding new mechanics in Breath of the Wild. People trying to get, pull off crazy moves in Mario Odyssey and wanting new content in those games. Like if there was some sort of seasonal thing that kind of came and went, new challenges and stuff, I think those communities would appreciate it. Maybe even Mario Kart, Yeah,
Mario Kart would be a good example. The reason I say multiplayer is because that's the multiplayer games are the games where the meta can go stale. And where the meta changes a lot, but you want to keep it changing to keep engagement. Like a Breath of the Wild, once you learn the mechanics, I would hate to always have to be, I mean, you guys hate when it rains in Breath of the Wild. I would hate to always be relearning something as I play.
I think, I was thinking about it, and you actually brought up the genre that immediately came to mind that I think could possibly do it, which I think is roguelikes, where roguelikes, they do have shifting, like, for example, roguelikes that have multiple rooms, like say certain room types don't exist in certain seasons, or maybe certain enemy types don't exist. So every run still has that variety when you're in a particular season. So, this season you're in the ice season. So all the enemies are ice based. And then the next one is the tropical. But it's a game. I think it only works for a mechanic that has replayability baked into it. I don't think God of War
Yeah.
would do well with
No.
removing and or adding mechanics randomly or not randomly, or even just announcing that they're, in next month we're going to change all of the stuff. And, and I will say this, I think why battle royale games actually do really well is in a lot of multiplayer games actually is that like, there's no such thing as mastery, really. Like,
Right.
Like you got to think about like the fact that in 3 months, maybe everybody's going to have to refigure out what's happening.
Yep,
right.
Start completely over.
But there's this, but what do we all enjoy in a game? Getting better, right? Like discovering things new and being better than you were when you started. Like, and when a game stays static, those who reach mastery stay mastery, and they kind of gatekeep people from ever getting there, right? That's just the nature of it. But when you take out certain things or you add new things, you'll find that some players who weren't that good with, like, say, sniper rifles, all of a sudden are beasts with shotguns, And you have this, like, fluctuating kind of, I don't know. I just think it's a very unique thing. And I think y'all are right in the sense that really only multiplayer games could pull it off. And maybe a few non-multiplayer games, but even those would be a stretch, Yeah. I like the speedrunning community thing, though, because it's kind of like, hey, speedrunners, we know you like our game, so we created a new scenario for you to try to speedrun, But that kind of probably just comes from the modding community anyway, like you were saying, Steve. So it's like the publisher and the developer's like, why get involved?
I'm thinking about it, and it just occurred to me, Smash Bros. Kind of does this, right? But they did it in the wrong way. So in the newest, in Smash Ultimate, the World of Light single player mode, basically it's really bad. All right, let me just say that at the top. It's really bad. But it's basically just you fighting computers, right? A bunch of different matches, but each match has some sort of gimmick related to a game character or a movie character. Oh, they're all game characters, right? And so like you might be fighting against a random villain from like a Final Fantasy game who uses uses like poison magic. And so in that match, they'll put you on some stage that maybe feels like a Final Fantasy stage, and they will have magic, I keep saying magic. They'll have poison fog on the ground, and so you have to fight on the platforms, or else you get poisoned. Like, and that's what they do, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, if in a Smash Bros. Online scenario where they were adding new mechanics and stuff, that's kind of what I imagine that would look like.
The Spirits boards kind of did that because they expired.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that track.
Spirit boards. I mean, yeah. They would have like special events. Yeah, you're right. Where you could like get spirits from different games, and they would have certain mechanics. Nintendo also has like tournaments that they do, and they'll do fun stuff like, I mean, obviously they do stuff like items on or this or that, but I've seen them do things like, only Pokemon can fight, or only, characters with projectiles or something dumb. That's kind of cool. They're kind of looking at it. I think they're coming about that direction. I wish they would do something with like the spirit battles, but in the online multiplayer. I think people would hate it, but it'd just be a mode that you could turn on.
That you just play. Like if you want to play, you play. If you don't, you don't.
Because you can already choose your preferred rules when you play online, and they try to respect it, but often I'll get stuck with someone who has like Smash Balls and 7 lives and 3 minutes, and I'm like, why? I hate this.
And they just SD 3 times.
I mean, if they do that, I don't care. I don't have to keep playing.
I think one thing you said earlier, Kyle, is just about this idea of adding, removing stuff, like not being something you'll see in other games. And it's kind of bold. Like, I can only imagine the discussion when they said, let's remove all of the guns, or people's favorite gun, and replace it with something else. And that must have been difficult, but I think that is what breathes life into Fortnite. And you mentioned this earlier, Kyle. You were like, I could play Fortnite and then forget to play for 3 months and then come back and I could pick it back up. But not only are you picking it back up, you're not picking it back up in the state that it was when you left. You're walking into a world of wonder and discovery, right? Like, I hadn't played in super long, and Kyle was playing, and he was telling me about Spider-Man and stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know? I go and play, and I'm like, what? You can swing with spider hands? What? What's going? Like, it was like a whole game. I was learning. There was a story going. First of all, the story's trash. But other than that,
it's
like,
very bad.
The world was doing things. And that was the most interesting part to me. Like, these little missions, and you're doing these little goofy things, and you're like seeing these different places, and they're evolving and changing. And it's like, it's a very dynamic experience. And it's hard to feel like you could do that in anything else. Because one, it's permanent and semi-permanent at the same time, right? It's permanent in the sense that you change the game map for a whole season, but it's semi-permanent in that you only play one instance of the game at the time. Like, so you're restarting every time you play. So it's almost like it doesn't really matter that it's permanent or not permanent. It's just like, you can't do that in God of War. You can't all of a sudden remove like the whole central area. You know, like it's a hard concept for me to describe, but I think there's just something about this idea that like the game can change just at any time, but it's not seen as a detriment. It's seen as like a feature. Like, whoa, they got Goku in here with, like, that was so random. Like, and it was like in the middle of a season. Like, all of a sudden we got Kamehamehas and Nimbuses. And it completely changed the gameplay style for a while. And then it went away and nobody's complaining. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think it mixes a bunch of genres too. Because one thing I think that also makes Battle Royale games fundamentally like have that staying power is that you, in general, as the player, you're the constant. And so like if the way the player moved and stuff also changed with the seasons, I don't think that they'd be accepted as well. But because fundamentally, you know, what you used to do, you can do, but now there's new, and it doesn't deter you, you know, from playing like how you used to if you wanted to, but it also encourages you to try these new things. Yeah, like the grappling hand, you know, you don't have to interact with that stuff. But then, you know, and depending on which Battle Royale you're playing, even Fall Guys does this, is like you're always still that same slow pill-shaped monster, but you know, the courses change. And so that's how you can feel like it adds a heaping load of new and discovery with just enough familiarity to where you feel enticed to give it a chance. Because I think like what you're mentioning with the whole map changing, favorite weapons leaving, new places on the island, you know, that you've never seen before, don't know how to navigate, don't know where loot is. That'd be super intimidating if you also had to figure out, you know, how to move your character now in this new world because there's space physics or something.
Yeah. And I think that's sometimes the detriment of a game like Apex, where the map, like how a player plays with the map is really important. So like a map change is kind of significant. But like you were saying, Steve, without the classes, it's just like, okay, I just shoot from a mountain now, you know, like from a high place or a low place. Like it's not the biggest deal. So I know we're coming up on time, so I want to ask y'all one last kind of question about Battle Royales. All right. I kind of threw this out this earlier. What game do you want to see? Maybe not really, but might be cool to see with a Battle Royale mode that's not just, you know, what we already know, a shooter, Call of Duty. Like what game, or maybe it is a shooter, but with a different mechanic. What game could you imagine being a Battle Royale? I'll start. Give y'all a second to think about this. One game I'd like to see a Battle Royale in, and I know it's the stupidest game you could possibly imagine doing this with, is Dynasty Warriors.
Dynasty Warriors Battle Royale.
Yes. So this is my envisioning of it. So have y'all played Dynasty Warriors?
No.
Okay. So just I guess for our listeners' sake, I should explain anyway. Dynasty Warriors, you're basically an overpowered, like you're basically a superhero amongst men, and you just kill hundreds and hundreds of enemies with swords and battles. It's like you're on a battlefield, like a war, in a war zone, and you're just fighting through and like hitting hundreds of people and killing hundreds of people and in like one fell swoop with a sword and stuff like that. It's just really chaotic and really crazy, and you feel just super powered. Now, what I imagine it being that everybody is dropped in different places, but like your goal is to kill the other people, but it's in the middle of a war.
Ooh.
So there's hundreds and hundreds of these little AIs running around doing stupid stuff. So you're fighting them, but you might once in a while encounter another person and you have to battle them, right? But when you kill like these enemies, they're kind of your loot drops, right? So you all start with the basic weapons but you kill enemies and they drop stuff and you might find chests and stuff, but it would just be like this crazy like battle of, you know, where do I got to fight the world, but I also got to fight people, and you'll see somebody in the distance, like juggling 100 people in the air. And you're like, am I ready to fight them yet? Like they seem like they have a really good weapon, you know, like maybe I need to deviate, you know, and it'd be a team of people, which would be even more fun, you know, when you could like attack. I don't know. I think it would be really interesting to have this like giant battlefield, where you're fighting multiple factions of superhero warriors, you know, and maybe they all have they're all the same. It's just the weapon that you hold does different actions, you know?
But doesn't like a Dynasty Warriors game kind of depend on, isn't like all the gameplay centering around the idea of one versus many?
No. Yes and no. Like you're fighting other generals. Like the generals have a lot of minions, but those generals are really strong. And sometimes you're protecting generals on your side. You're fighting alongside generals who are really stronger than you, you know, so it's a...
Got it. That's interesting. It's almost like a battle, maybe a better, not better, maybe something like a battle royale Fire Emblem
Ooh.
type of thing.
I think...
Or like a tactics game or something.
I think I would still want it to be live action.
Yeah, live action. But in terms of like, I guess the theme, it feels like... Yeah,
maybe so. And I think if you kept it where it's just everybody was the same archetype, but it was just a weapon that made you different, then it would be more like the Fortnite than the Apex, and I think it would be more accessible.
Pick up a spear or a sword,
and then the spears are just purple, gold, you know, gray.
Sure.
So yeah, that's. I have other thoughts, but yeah, do y'all have any ideas on?
I got one.
I do. I'll let Kyle go first.
Okay, so I'm gonna cheat. I actually have two, but I'm gonna make them both very brief. So the first one,
let me go between you.
Okay, so the first one I was thinking of is I don't know how this would work, but Rocket League.
Interesting.
Just because I think the feeling that they gave to those little cars it feels really good, and especially when you have a full team of whatever it is, 5 versus 5, and trying to accomplish something. I think it would have to be one of those elimination games, because if they made it like, what's that game with the clown who drives the van?
Yo, I was literally about to say Twisted Metal Battle Royale would be so gangster.
Yeah. And so,
I mean, it basically is. You just add more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't want it to be like they add weapons to the cars like they do in Twisted Metal. I mean, maybe it could work, but I feel like that would kind of kill the spirit of Rocket League, which is more about the movement. But I just think having 100 or so of those little cars zipping around trying to do something would be pretty interesting.
So I have an idea for you. Maybe it could be like, imagine a giant map. So not like a little
arena,
like soccer field, like in not Twisted Metal, in Rocket League, but it's a giant map with flat areas and mountainous areas, hilly areas. And there are goals scattered around, not random, but like set places. But then randomly, a giant ball will fall out of the sky, and whoever's near to it will try to score on the nearest goal. And the other team is trying to stop them from, like any other teams who happen to be nearby are trying to stop them from scoring and instead steal the goal and take it themselves. And then I guess if you don't get points, you get eliminated over time.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think something like that could work.
I think I just want to hijack your idea and I think once you said that Twisted Metal Battle Royale in a city map or wherever with like teams and like it would be so chaotic. But if it was a big enough map, it would be kind of like Fortnite, where you have those team battles, even though there's like 100 other people around. So you could have these epic like car battles, but then you have to get third party by another set of cars. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be super cool, man.
You know what? That's a mechanic that we didn't talk about from like the very first part of the podcast. The concept of having a big enough space where you can run into people, but you're not. It isn't like Smash Bros. Where everyone's on a tiny stage and everyone's gonna hit by everything. But there's an element of sneaking and surprise, and that's probably another place where Fall Guys fails to be a battle royale. But this idea that someone can be third partying you implies that, you know, not everything is known about the whole map at once. That people can be unknown until you run into them by accident. Yeah, or you can like hunt people.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah. I've always thought about it as like Apex and Fortnite and PUBG or whatever. They just have series of cornucopias, like in Hunger Games. So basically, every town is a cornucopia. So it draws players in because it benefits you to go there and get better weapons. Because at the end of the day, your last fight, if your weapons are trash, you're in a bad situation. So like instead of it just being like people wandering around and maybe running into each other, these points of interest always pull you in. So you always have some level of engagement if you're near anybody, even though the maps are huge. You know what I'm saying? So anyway.
Okay, cool. Point. Were you finished, Kyle?
Yeah, that was my first one, but I'll do the other one on the way back.
Okay. So I was trying to picture what this would look like in my head. I don't know if I like this game the most, but just in the short time that I've had, a battle royale Spelunky game.
Okay, continue.
And so you have a bunch of people. You have a huge temple. Like I think the temple and each level of Spelunky is usually like maybe 2 or 3 screens of area.
Yeah,
it had to be much bigger than that. Okay, yeah, much bigger than that. Have a lot of the same movement and like mechanics in terms of guns and items and traps. Instead of the ghost who just knocks you out after a while, it would have to be like basic. The storm would be lava coming up from the bottom, or like maybe the top of the map like caving in slowly. But it's random, so you don't know where the last circle, quote unquote, will be. But yeah, I think that could be really fun. I wanted there to be like a 2D. I was thinking, what would a 2D roguelike look like?
Battle Royale.
I'm still thinking. Sorry, not. It is a roguelike, 2D Battle Royale. So I'm still thinking about things because it's hard to hunt someone or be hunted if you're just a spray on a screen that anybody can see. But there could be ways around that. I could figure that out. But
so
I think Spelunky already has so many mechanics that would just work instantly without having to be fiddled with.
We almost forgot, Kyle, to mention a battle royale that we've both played.
Worms. I was gonna mention it if you didn't.
Yeah, Worms. So Worms is the only 2D battle royale that I think I've played that I'm aware of.
I would say like 1.25 of battle royales of 2D battle royales you've played.
1.25. There's some other quarter somewhere that
yes.
I mean, I know that it is an elimination type game, but how is it a battle royale?
So
no, they made a Worms battle like it was.
Oh
yeah,
like literally,
it's a standalone.
Okay, then I haven't seen it. I have no idea.
Yeah, I can't. It might just be called Worms Royale. I can't remember, but it's like you just come in with your team. You guys loot to get weapons, and then literally it's just chaos, just fighting people. It was really fun.
It was very good for a while,
but it just didn't have any. Like Fortnite feels like you're kind of progressing. I don't know how to describe it. Like it just didn't feel like there was anything more.
Like a really low ceiling.
It felt like we got really good really quick, and we didn't play very much. But I mean, we were getting dubs on dubs, and it was starting to like not be as fun.
And it just didn't feel like it was going anywhere. And I played a few times, and then I saw people who were like really, really good, and I realized, oh, this is basically the building mechanic. Like there's
that too.
there's like this feeling of like, oh, like I can never get to this level, and I don't desire to. So yeah, and also like it was a little bit too not that it shouldn't be intense. It was just the maps were a little bit smaller, so it was more chaos than it was like tactics. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they had like the mechanics they brought from Worms, which was appreciated, but also added to the chaos, like the different warp tunnels and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely more chaotic than tactical. But yeah, sorry. So yeah, I would love to see a really cool 2D. I think roguelikes would work really well. So I'll use this as my last one, and then we can kind of all do our last one to wrap it up. But it's another one of my favorite games. But I think it'd be really cool to do a Dead Rising. As you can see, I like when there's a lot of stuff that you have to deal with. PvE
environmental stuff
versus PvEVP. I mean, there's a little bit of PvE in Fortnite, but it would be cool for you to start as a person who has to survive the zombie apocalypse. You're the last person, the only one person can be rescued, you know? And like, I don't know if there would be a circle per se, like something there has to be to push people together. But like, your goal is to survive. You know, there's like, you got to eat food. You got to fight off these zombies. You find weapons that are breakable. And then when you encounter another person, you have to fight them. And then you can take their stuff. And yeah, you're basically just fighting. Oh, that's what it is. The maybe the helipad where you get picked up changes location or something. And, you know, or maybe there's like quarantine zones that once you get caught in these quarantine zones, you just, you know, you have a certain period of time to get out before you get turned into a zombie, you know?
Yeah.
But I like the idea of just like you're fighting through all these zombies, but you're also trying to survive. And then like there's some tactics because like, how do I approach another group of survivors? You know, like, OK, you go this way and flank them, distract them. And then we'll do this, you know, maybe we'll throw some meat into the middle of them to cause the zombie stuff attack them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So I had an idea for you too. What if when you die, you can become a zombie and you'll never be able to win the game, but then you can try to grief
other teams.
The other teams. And maybe that you have as a player, you know, you have some like control over the zombies so you can like make them more make zombie attacks more strategic and stuff.
Yeah. Or maybe just
and then the way to stop that would be like if you kill somebody, you have to totally just destroy their body.
Yeah, kill the
headshot twice as a zombie.
Like being thirsted, basically.
And maybe that's the part of it, like the revive mechanic is like you can kill them, but in this world, reanimation is a real thing, and it's just a question of how you get reanimated, like via zombie or via some, you know, machine. I think on the, without giving it too much thought, I would say that if you are killed and thirsted, then you die. Mm-hmm. But if you are killed and then like if you're knocked and then you like bleed out or something else kills you, like a zombie kills you, then you become a zombie. And you can either just quit at that moment, like if you don't want to keep playing like that, or you can play till somebody kills you.
I like that as an alternative to like a spectator mode.
Yeah.
Because it kind of facilitates the same things that you can't win, but you can still interact. It reminds me of in the battle mode in Mario Kart on 64, when if you went out first, you'd become the little bomb cart.
Mm-hmm. And just chase a person you hate.
Yeah.
Just pursue
it would probably impact the lobbies though. If people are still in their games as zombies. Like rather than starting a new game.
Yeah, there'd be a lot less rotation to new games.
Oh yeah, it would take longer.
I think this is a really quick side note. I think one thing that Battle Royale did realize really early is that it's a better experience to have some ability to revive your teammates. Because it gives you an opportunity, even after a loss in a battle, to always be able to like recover and come back and have a comeback win. But like permadeath means like, oh, well, now we're just team of 2 against teams of 3. I guess we lose. You know,
that was something I liked about Apex was they had reboots, and now Fortnite has reboots. Because it didn't used to, right? Am I crazy?
I don't think they did. I'm pretty sure the reboot
you could heal someone who was knocked, but once someone died,
yeah, I think they're gone before they had to reboot vans.
Yeah, definitely a good play,
Mr. Kyle.
But so yeah, my second one. I thought you were gonna touch on it when you said Spelunky, but I think a DRG battle royale would be pretty interesting.
Okay,
just because it's kind of the opposite mechanic of Fortnite, which is the building. And so if you had to dig, and if you could be digging tunnels and fighting people like underground and stuff.
Oh.
And even if they kept the classes, but instead of, you starting off as a class, they have the class weapons lying around. I think even what they have in DRG right now would lend itself pretty well. And, they already have the stuff like with the smoke clouds and the indicators that lead you to certain areas and stuff. So as far as like the zone closing and waypoints and stuff, they got a lot of the pieces. You just have to, I guess, figure out how to make it really work. But I think the most interesting thing, though, would be the digging while also fighting, and then having to figure out the lighting situations and stuff like that.
Yeah, like you can see another team at the
really
distance,
cool.
like in the darkness. Like maybe your team is like, oh, let's stay like in the darkness, kind of see what they're up to, then ambush them.
That would be hard because there's not a lot of open spaces in DRG. Except for like, the really open spaces. But you could just make maps that have a lot of open spaces.
Yeah. Or you hear a team drilling.
Well, they don't make maps at all. They don't even make maps. So in your DRG game, so the maps in DRG, I think they're
procedural,
randomly generated. Yeah. So would you keep the procedural tunnels, or would you do like, set maps that you can learn, but then dig around in?
So I think, in my mind, the better Battle Royale experiences I've had have had at least the consistency of map. So I'd say it'd be a bigger map, and you'd still have some sort of like drop-in mechanic where you choose which part of the planet, in quotes, that you drill into, but it'll be the same one every time.
Oh, and what if you're trying to get to the core? That's the circle. Like, everyone starts on the surface, and you're trying to get to the core first, but you can like cut people off and stuff.
I was gonna say a similar thing where it's not how the storm works. Is that it's actually like there's only so many drill downs. Like on the map, there's like maybe 20 drop ships that take you to the next level down, and you're like, it's not necessarily like you're fighting other people like purely killing them. You're just trying to like fuel this machine so it'll go down and get your whole team in before the other team, right? And so it's like this kind of like, and there's a whole bunch of them. So it's this like chaos. You see people like but you need to get all the materials, and your team has to have all the materials, and you can like steal it from each other. And maybe it's not about killing each other, but like out resourcing or something.
So you have the choice to eliminate other players or focus on gathering resources. So that would be, I guess, more of an elimination thing, because you take the drill down, and the team that doesn't get a drill,
they die up there for whatever reason.
Well, they wouldn't necessarily die. They could just drill like manually.
I think if you make it where they can't drill down, maybe it's like it's just purely, maybe it's not that you die, but it's about you winning, being the selected group.
Right. That was my initial thought.
Because I think if you make the mechanic where people can kill people, they're gonna kill each other.
Yeah.
I don't think you can say, oh, like you can focus on resources or focus on killing people. It's like it's either killing everybody or like we can't hurt each other. It's just more about a defend, like dodgeball kind of situation. Like we can.
Yeah. What I meant by they don't die is that like they're not their game isn't over just because they missed the drill that goes down. They can follow, but they'll just be really slow. And so then you can choose, like, do I kill these stragglers or do I leave without them? And then maybe they come up behind me later. That could be an interesting mechanic.
Yeah, I think if there's like some kind of like slowly smoke, poison gas moves into the caverns. And so you just got to keep moving.
You can do something like that. Yeah.
But anyhow.
You could also jump down after the drill and
break your legs,
take fall damage,
and just die.
Worth it. Yeah, I think one thing also that with the core idea is that there would be a subset of players that ignore everything else about the game, drill down to the core immediately, and then try to gatekeep for the rest of the game.
And that's why
I think that's one of the.
Mm-hmm.
You had to make it difficult to just go straight to the center. You had to like.
I think that's why you can't even drill straight down. Like you have to have these the drop ships, like the drop ships, like the core. Like there's just some surfaces you can't drill through. It's just only the drop ships can do it.
I think you can drill, but it's just slow. It's too slow to do it quick. To win if you just drill. Like it's still better to take a drop ship because it's faster.
Mm-hmm.
But the drop ship won't take you all the way, or maybe it won't take you directly in that direction.
I like this game. So when can I play it?
I know. I'm loving all of these so far, especially my ideas.
Yeah, you love the worst ideas. It's a gift.
Yeah.
So did you have a last one, Steve? Or
I didn't have off the top of my head, or I didn't have one in mind, but off the top of my head, maybe something like Pokemon.
A Pokemon Battle Royale.
You collect Pokemon as you go. You battle kids. You take their money. You leave them.
So can you get third party? Like you're having a Pokemon battle. And somebody's like,
yeah. Well, it wouldn't be turn based necessarily. So yeah, someone could just show up.
That would be wild. Like if it was all about you being a trainer, and so like you could have these like so you're imagine if it was a team based game. So like you're rolling with Misty and Brock and everybody,
right?
And you run up on another crew and y'all are throwing out Pokeballs and like. All right, okay, they threw out a Charizard.
3v1.
We need a Blastoise. Oh, hey guys, they're rushing me. Somebody, like it would be crazy. And then just
like if you can catch up to like 5 or 6 Pokemon, like a full party, and they get stronger as you battle with them. Like your whole party gets stronger. We'll do experience share. And if you're in a team, maybe we have fewer. Maybe I have up to 4. And you can have a team of 3 or 4 people, and each person can have one Pokemon out at a time, and you can switch them out at will, more or less. But like, what could work is if you say you're tag teaming somebody, it's just me against you two. If you both have fire Pokemon and I have a water Pokemon, I can switch to that and like hope to fend you off.
So you're saying
another level of it.
So you're saying that the looting aspect would be the capturing. The wild Pokemon.
You're trying to capture Pokemon as you go.
So you see them running around, and maybe it's just you throw a Pokeball and you get them, or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think you could do like the vanilla capture mechanic where sometimes you miss. At least not for maybe for the gray Pokemon, so like the lower level ones you automatically capture. But then if you see one that's a blue Pokemon, more rare, maybe there's a chance you won't be able to catch it first try, or it takes longer or something.
Yeah, maybe. And you can obviously use your Pokemon to catch other Pokemon. Or someone else could swoop in at the last second and steal a Pokemon you're trying to catch. I guess there would have to be some sort of cooldown. No, there can't. I don't know. Yeah, I think, dang, this was just off the dome. I really like this idea. That's a good idea.
He's patting himself on the back.
I am patting myself on the back. I don't know what you would use as like a storm necessarily to draw people together.
I mean,
maybe I don't know. Yeah,
maybe it was just about like capturing some legendary Pokemon or something. So like your goal is to be the person who captures like X amount of legendary Pokemon or something. So it's like more of like a race to like wherever they appear on the map and like fighting for these to get the legendary Pokemon or something. I don't know, just some kind of.
Yeah, I could see that working because like. Especially if you balance it to where your Pokemon get experience just from battling and not from winning, then if they faint, maybe you don't lose, but you could go heal them or something. So like the round maybe has a certain amount of time to where you can do more about accomplishing objectives than, I guess, killing everyone else.
I think you would lose if your entire team faints, but. You can switch out fainted Pokemon for new Pokemon. Like, you can catch a new Pokemon to replace the one that fainted.
Just leave the fainted one there.
Or, you leave it there. You leave it there on the ground, and either someone else... Like, obviously, there would also be a way to revive fainted Pokemon. So, say I catch a Pokemon, like a really high, I have my party. I see a high level Pokemon in the bushes. I go catch it. I have to drop someone from my party. Then the guy I drop will be available for someone else to catch in the future. So, I don't know. There's different ways to balance it, but like maybe all the Pokemon you catch are low level. They have different like potentials, and the only way to get them to that potential is to have them in your party and fight them. But if you catch somebody and you have to drop someone, then someone else can come pick up a previously leveled up Pokemon. So you have to like, weigh the pros and cons. Like, okay, I'll get this new one, but I'm giving somebody a strong Pokemon potentially.
But basically what I'm hearing is that like somebody needs to give us money so we could do give us
that.
Can we?
The Pokemon one might actually work better as Digimon.
Ooh, Digimon.
Yeah, I could be convinced to do Digimon instead. Digimon
for the right price.
More complex. I'm just saying, like, if the mechanics work better, I feel like Pokemon works really well. Digimon, they have such complex evolution trees.
The type matching up would be a very interesting thing about the Pokemon one too. Yeah,
type matching is cool. Digimon, there's not usually that many types.
Subject matter expert. But yeah. No, I mean I think that's super cool. So I guess we should wrap it up. We've definitely this has been a thick boy. This boy thick.
It's been a fruitful conversation.
So yeah, I mean I don't know. I think battle royales are here to stay. I think there's
going nowhere.
I just hope that some developers get just take some risks, do something new. Because, I mean, Fortnite exists because of a risk. So I hope that somebody takes a risk and just moves the ball forward. I don't want it to stop at Fortnite. Fortnite's a great game, but it's not going to be a forever game.
Fortnite 2, baby.
Fortnite 2. Good luck with that. But yeah, so, just as always, I want to thank you, brothers, for the time that you've given us this day, this evening, this night in this universe. So first, I want to thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Kyle, for your thoughts and ideas.
Always a pleasure, sure. And I gotta make good on my. So I said the 0.25 of 2D battle royales you played.
Mm-hmm.
I almost forgot. There was maybe like a month where we actually started to build a 2D Fortnite.
Oh yeah, I do remember.
Many moons ago.
Yeah, we didn't get super far, but we had some cool ideas. Yeah,
it was getting there. It was trash, but it was getting there.
Yeah, we had a mechanic. I have to go see if I can find that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to our game devs out there. We're hiring now.
Shout out.
we know a musician.
Agile bros.
We know a musician who's looking for work. So anywho, Mr. Steve, thank you for your time. Thank you as always.
You're welcome. But if anyone's listening, I am asserting intellectual rights over my ideas. So I don't want anyone to make these games and cut me out. All right, I want someone to profit. I want to be part of it.
Yeah, just tell them your address so they know how to find you.
Yeah,
I should be more famous than I am, and so that's my goal.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo's definitely known for bringing in outsiders and sharing their IP with people. So
yeah,
definitely you'll be on the Pokemon game Battle Royale.
Just start making it. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah. I'm sure they won't send Miyamoto with his...
I mean, honestly, like you could probably get away with doing that without the Pokemon brand.
Absolutely.
They're going to send...
It's just easy. It's just an easy starting point.
When Miyamoto shows up with his purple revolver called the Waluigi, just be ready. But thank you,
Brett.
Always. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. It's one of my favorite parts of the week. So, hey, if you've listened this far, that means you're a boss. You're a G. You the best of the best. Baby. You the brother. You the sister.
You're at least a manager.
You're at least a manager. At least.
Shift manager.
So just want to thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this episode of Super Agile Bros. We're just so thankful. And if you don't know where to find us, if you want to listen to us on another platform, just Google us, Super Agile Bros. But if you don't know how to Google, you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and of course Spotify. I think I already said that. So, YouTube. How did I not say YouTube? You can find us there too. Check out some of our
YouTube is Google. It's just more
Google video. Google. Yeah, just find us there. You can check out some of our cool gameplay that we drop in there. Mix it up a little bit. But thank you for listening. Thank you for being great fans. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for always giving us, inspiration. If you have ideas on podcast episodes you want us to, do, please feel free to reach out to us on the various platforms. And please don't forget
in the comments.
Yeah, in the comments. And don't forget to rate us on the various platforms like Apple Podcasts. We love that. Really appreciate it. But we're just thankful. So until next time, y'all, take it easy. We will see you in these streets. Take it easy. Peace.
It was a gumbo.